It's time for humanity to start building our new world, especially the financial system. With me today is the creator of a brand new, highly evolved cryptocurrency that is a type of conscious money and far, far more. It requires we educate ourselves, and who better to teach us than the Godfather of Bitshares and sovereignhero.com, Stan Larimer. Welcome, Stan.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
It's a privilege to have you. Thank you so much for talking to us. We're starting this whole interview from a viewpoint of everyone that seems to be simultaneously rising and interested in cryptocurrency. So the timing is very good. I think a lot of us, you have our attention now. We've kind of been looking at it, we've been learning, but I think the world is ready to hear more about it and for action to happen. So let's start with introducing you to the world.
Okay, well, my name is, like you say, Stan Larimer. I'm a retired aerospace engineer with 40 years in all of the big aerospace companies that you've probably heard of.
Well, such as Boeing.
Lockheed Martin. I've worked with Boeing. I worked with SAIC and a number of other ones that I've either had work for me or I've worked for them in different capacities. And working on drones, every kind, air, ground, sea, and space drones.
Wow.
Back before they were called drones, we had a unmanned air vehicle kind of a name for it. But nowadays people call them drones. And after 40 years in that, I was going to retire and work on permaculture and enjoy a nice homestead in Southern Virginia. But my son had other ideas. Stan Larimer is the actual inventor of all this technology. He called me out of retirement to run the business for him so he could focus on the technology.
Is that what he's doing right now, your son?
Yes, he's a serial inventor. Every year he's working on a new project.
Wow.
His first
Shout out to Dan. Thank you, Dan.
Yep. And his first project was Bitshares. After he did that, he handed that company to me and said, keep that running, get people to adopt it. And then he moved on and did Steemit. Did that for about a year, handed it off to the CEO of Steemit, Ned Scott. Now he's moved on to EOS, which is, you know, his magnum opus, if you will, after having proved what he's proven. And that's being developed now and will debut next year. Each time it revolutionizes the industry more.
And I'm excited to get to the part about EOS because that's what's going to be evolving out of this. But first, we have to catch up with this. Mm-hmm. So what is required for all of us to get into this is to educate ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so what we need to know is, first of all, why do we need this?
Well, that's a good question. First off, we ought to define what this is. When we say cryptocurrencies, that's a subset of everything that has to do with distributed ledgers, systems that don't have any central point of control. Generally, they run on a system of distributed robots all around the world. We like to call them honest robots because they can't be corrupted like humans. They can only execute the code and they check each other. And that's the essence of everything we build. Now, what are we building on top of that? A new banking system, I guess is what I'd call it. And why do we need a new banking system is best answered by what's wrong with the current banking system.
Let us count the ways.
Yes, and maybe you can help me come up with a complete list. But I'll just give you an example just to get started. I want to wire money to somebody on the other side of the planet. I go in and have to fill out a bunch of paperwork. And then the bank tells me, well, you can only wire so much. You're going to have to wire over a period of several days because we have limits for your particular category. And you have to do that process, and then you maybe pay $30 for the wire and wait 3 days or more. Compared to the new system that we've developed, that's like wait 3 seconds and pay 3 cents. Okay, so that's something everybody can understand, and there's nobody that can mess with it. A lot of people find their wire got held up because there was some irregularity that the bank found that said, oh, we had to stop and investigate while we use your money for a week or two, and then we'll forward it on. Nobody can mess with your transfers when you're using digital currencies because those trusty robots out there just do their job.
Okay, you just said a whole lot, so let's break it down.
Okay.
As far as the inconvenience of the bank system, it's not just inconvenient, it just isn't working. I went to the bank last week to deposit a check and was told that I had to wait a week to 10 days for the money to be mine. And I've gone in there before with the same thing, and I just prepare myself for battle.
Yeah.
that I'm going to have to deal with the robots in the bank that are going to tell me, well, it's not, and they're highly regulated, so I kind of feel bad for the people that are having to report that news. But I had to get like 4 different people on the phone in order for that money to be mine that day. And it actually wasn't that day, it was the next day. So there's something terribly wrong. It's inconvenient. It's a hostile environment. And so at the heart of this is the decentralization of banking. So I think that's what we're getting to. So this is a big thought. And it goes deeper than that, because when we think about decentralizing, that's like we have grown up, it's so ingrained in us that someone's in there meddling with our money, that there's the man, there's the government, there's the Federal Reserve, there's whoever, that it's kind of like we're going to have to get that out of our heads. It's like hardwired into our system. So wait, we get rid of the central bank and then it's just you and me doing transactions? Wow, that is the education curve we're talking about here.
That is absolutely huge. And what people don't realize is how it skews our relationships. If I wanted to send money to you in that same way with the new system, I can sit down and type a few things on a keyboard, and in less than a minute, I can send that to you. Nobody hassles me, and you've got it.
Oh,
go ahead.
Psychologists call that triangulation. When you put a third party into a transaction, that's a way of disrupting and disturbing. Anyway, keep going.
Well, I had a new client a while back, and I needed to send her some money. And it went through 3 or 4 different ways through the banks and got interrupted every time. And we finally got her paid, but it really interfered with our relationship, because was it the bank messing with it, or was I stalling and not wanting to pay? It reflects badly on me when I can't do what I say I would do, and I blame it on the bank, and it's the old joke, there's a check in the mail.
Right.
Okay, but in this case, when I've got digital currency and I sit down with a client, we're on the phone the same time. I say, you got your wallet open? Yep, okay, watch. Tink, 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 chink.
And it's
he
done.
says, I see it's there.
In real time.
And we have a good relationship of instantaneously doing what I said. And so reputation-wise, I'm tired of having a middleman in the way, putting their deviations and who knows what other sneaky agendas they may have into the middle of my relationship with other people.
100%, and even goes deeper than that. I think it's like, if we just keep expanding this, why the need to decentralize out and out and out, it's like moving out of fear-based to love-based to trust-based. It's a whole new game, because I think as collective humanity as a whole has been so conditioned that they're going to get screwed, somebody's going to be in charge, you're going to get the short end of the stick. You know, there's only a lack mentality, a lack of prosperity. It goes on multidimensionally. So this whole lack of centralization is an emancipator for humanity.
And I think it will change the way people look at each other. It allows more of an abundance mentality, because I can freely give to somebody without worrying about, well, you know, how much is it going to be rated by the middleman who taking their fees out of it, installing it, and so on. We get more pure relationships.
Purity.
Yes.
I love that. I love where this is going. Okay, so let's make a map for people, because I had to figure this out myself of where everything fits. So Bitshares is like an exchange. Is that correct? Almost like a stock market.
Yes, you can think of it as a stock market, and things that trade on it are called coins, or more generally tokens. And those tokens could represent shares of stock or other currencies, special purpose smart coins that do fancy things that we can engineer. A lot of flexibility there. It could represent frequent flyer miles. It could represent a relationship a celebrity might have with her fans, where fans get these tokens and maybe it gives them special access to the celebrity.
So token and coin is the same thing. Okay, is Bitcoin an exchange or a coin?
No, it's just a plain coin.
It's just a plain coin. Okay, so Bitshares is now this umbrella bigger than Bitcoin. So all of the coins come out of Bitshares now. It's a collection of coins. Am I correct?
Yeah, we call it a smart coin factory.
Smart coin factory, that's correct.
And what that does is you can sit down and do your own coin. Now, when Bitcoin first came out, people would copy the software and make a new version of it. It would be called an altcoin. It'd have some name that was, you know, cute, maybe permaculture coin or dog coin or whatever. And each of those required people to do the work of creating and getting a whole new network running for each coin. We came along with the Smart Coin Factory and said, why would you guys do all that? Let's put it all on one network, and that way the coins can be traded against each other without a middleman. The middleman in that case would be a centralized exchange that most people use nowadays, and that centralized exchange has humans in it who can run off with the money or front run.
Again.
Yeah. They can take advantage of their central middle market making position. We put all that on the network with those trusty robots. They do the trading, and we get a nice pure exchange with nobody interfering.
Yes, I love that. Okay, and before we get into this, where a sovereign hero fits, and I want to do one more thing about the banks.
Okay.
So, will this system replace banks? What happens to banks?
Oh, the banks will always be around. They have
they'll be like old dinosaurs,
a lockhold.
Kind of.
Well, I like to call them dinosaurs, but you know, they're very powerful dinosaurs, and they do have the ear of all the governments of the world, and you know, nobody's going to displace them. But I'm happy if I just can provide people with another alternative. Yes.
But if this takes off and people educate themselves, realize the superiority of this system, in my opinion, doesn't that diminish the power of the banks? Doesn't a lot of the energy, i.e. currency, now move into a whole different area?
Well, I certainly hope so. That is our goal. We never want to see too much power aggregate in one spot. And quite frankly, the banking system has aggregated enough power to control the world. And I think that's, quite frankly, their objective.
Yes.
And so anytime we can do something that says, no, you don't have absolute power, you know, you have a lot of power, a lot of influence, and there's some things that, you know, you're going to have control of forever, but the fundamental ability of people to interrelate on this planet and do simple transactions between themselves without anybody telling them they can or they can't is, to us, a primary goal. And we view what we're building as the new tools of freedom.
Okay, and so Bitshares can't take over, because guess who's in the middle, who's in power with Bitshares? All of us. Is that correct?
That's true. Bitshares reports not to me. I don't have any control of it. You tell me to shut it down, you put a gun to my head and say, shut it down. I could say, post a thing, hey guys, please shut it down, and they'd laugh at me.
Because it's launched, it's out.
It's out there, and it's run by hundreds of people. And you know, if you were to go to each of those people and ask them to shut it down, others would pop up. You'd be playing whack-a-mole with the people that are running it. So it was designed specifically so it couldn't be interfered with, so we would have one trustworthy place where we could interact economically.
So this is an evolution towards a more humane, sovereign approach to handling our currency as a collective for Earth. I like that. It's a beautiful, sustainable system. And regenerative, another good thing about it. So back to the structure of Bitshares. So Bitshares is a coin factory and more, and your flagship coin within this is called Sovereign Hero. So tell us about that.
Okay. Well, if you think of the Bitshares coin itself as being kind of voting rights in controlling the network itself, sort of like shareholders in a company have the right to vote on how the company does certain things. That is the function of the Bitshares token. It's the base token. It's the thing that's, I think, will appreciate the most. So if you're a speculative person saying, gee, I missed out on Bitcoin growing by a factor of 1,000, I missed out on Ethereum, which is another one of the popular chains, growing by a factor of 1,000. And here's Bitshares that's stronger than either of those two by a lot, and it's got, quite frankly, we think a very good way of interfacing to the world, because we're going after mainstream people and want to train them. We think Bitshares will have that same kind of growth in the next couple of years. So that fundamental token is the thing you invest in if you're a speculator. But a lot of people don't want to just speculate. They want to have something, like retirees, for example. They did what they were supposed to do. Yes. They saved a little nest egg, and they were going to retire and just draw a nice 5% interest or something on it. And the banks have cut that down to where it might be less than 1%. In fact, in some cases, negative interest. You have to pay them to hold your money.
Oh my God, is that true?
That's getting more and more true. in places. And so those poor retirees are forced to live off their principal instead of having it earn anything. Well, we wanted to make something for them too, a nice conservative type coin. And that's what the Sovereign Hero is all about.
Okay, so that's a good point. So you can look at the exchange of Bitshares as something that goes up, like Bitcoin and the other coins that are you invest in at where they are now, and you hope that they are exponentially larger as time goes on. Sovereign Hero is a constant. So is that like a fund almost? It's not like investing in a fund, but it's a steady growth. Am I correct?
Right. It's called a smart coin, and a smart coin is something that it's complicated underneath. I don't think people want to know exactly how it works, but let me think of it as a home equity loan. Okay? If you took some of your Bitshares and put it up as collateral, like you put your house up as collateral, and then you borrowed money to go buy something using your house or your Bitshares stock in the company as collateral, then you can get a coin that is backed by that collateral. And that collateral can go up and down, just like the price of your house can go up and down, but it's always going to be enough to cover the value of this coin.
Endowment.
Yeah.
Does that apply to this?
Yes, in fact, we use it to make endowments, and that's what we're suggesting for a lot of relief efforts, is to set aside some of your buy Bitshares with the donations and lock them up as collateral and borrow against that to go do the relief. And now you still have
your
all the donations.
Principal stays.
Principals stay like an endowment.
Yes.
And if we see the growth that Bitcoin and Ethereum had from all these people adopting Bitshares, then your endowment is going to grow by a factor of 10, 100, maybe 1,000 if it does what Bitcoin did. And now you can borrow more and more against it because the price of your house has gone up, so you can borrow more and help people. And those coins that you spend go into circulation, and the retirees can buy them and have 5% interest or 5% appreciation built into them. So we are producing simultaneously a new coin that, instead of inflating and losing value, is actually gaining value 5% every year. Which
is unheard of in today's market. So, hey, I just thought of, is this oversimplified? But Bitshares is the stock market. It's the new stock market. And Sovereign Hero, or the coins, are the new savings accounts that build.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about that?
Simple as that.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. So if I'm going to, what were we taught all our lives? You're supposed to have stocks and bonds, right?
And savings, yeah.
Yeah. When you're young, it's mostly in stocks and a few bonds, and as you get older, you sort of shift it.
Exactly.
Well, you can shift between, if you're young and got lots of time, have a lot of Bitshares, and you don't need much in the way of heroes, but you can use a few. And then as you get older, you want to shift into something more conservative. So you
smart coin.
Yeah, and that's when you go and grab the hero, and you just keep it in your savings account, and it'll appreciate by 5% annually against the dollar.
That's beautiful. Of course, it does so much more, and we're going to get into later the humanitarian aspects, which is the most exciting aspect of all this. Given that we've already improved on the saving system, the investing system, and the decentralization, there's so much more that makes it really exciting as far as helping with the humanitarian projects on Earth. I see that as like the biggest thing. But let's get back to investing. Okay, do you mind comparing Bitshares to Bitcoin? Can we just do that?
Well, yeah. There's several different things we could talk about. First off, I salute Bitcoin the way I salute Henry Ford. He invented the Model T, which was a huge leap over a horse and carriage. Okay, and everybody learns about Henry Ford. They don't learn about Stan Larimer or Dan Larimer in their textbooks.
And the automobile is not obsolete.
No, you can still drive it. They've steadily improved the automobile. But when Dan came along and looked at Bitcoin, and he said, "Wait a minute, you mean it takes 10 minutes to do one transaction, and to confirm it maybe an hour? And I can only do maybe 7 transactions per second for the whole planet? How am I going to make an exchange out of this technology?" You know?
Right.
So he had to invent. And what he invented was something that, instead of 10 minutes, takes 3 seconds. And
is that the average time for a transaction?
Actually, the average is 1.5 seconds.
Really?
But everything's guaranteed to get done in 3 seconds. Okay, and that's really exciting because you're talking to someone on the phone, say, "Here it comes," boom, and they say, "Wow, there it is." You know,
instantaneous.
Yeah, it's almost instantaneous. The only reason it can't be much faster is because speed of light time to travel around the planet. It's
Oh.
decentralized, and if we make it run much faster than that, then one node will get it before the other one does on different sides of the planet. So we're pushing up against the limits of
We
the
can
speed
live
of
with a
light.
second and a half.
Yeah, second and a half on average, and that's plenty good enough for most things. That's
Plenty.
if you were playing a game, that's the time it take to deal a card maybe, or the tumbling of slots on a slot machine if you were using it for a gaming purpose. And when you're doing trading, then it works perfectly good for saying, okay, I want to do a buy. And every order that gets put in that 3 seconds all happens at once, so nobody can sneak a peek. Nobody has an unfair advantage. Like right now, Wall Street,
Totally.
they locate their supercomputers right next to the exchange so they can get that extra millisecond of lead time to see an order coming in and buy it ahead of somebody else.
Seriously.
Yeah, and us little guys don't have that chance. But over on the Bitshares exchange, everybody, the biggest guy to the littlest guy, is operating at that 3 second pace. And so they were all on a level playing field, and that was another important thing we wanted.
No one has their finger in that pie.
Yeah, you can't, because the robots are programmed. We can see how they were programmed. All the geeks in the world, spend all their days looking at the code saying, what's this do, and talking about it. So while a lot of us may not understand how to read the code, we can listen to the geeks talking about it. And if there was anything sneaky in the code, somebody would have blown the whistle a long time ago. And so we can count on every geek in their parents' basement blowing the whistle and being the watchdogs on the software.
Yeah, so it's like it's totally self-regulating.
Yes,
I mean,
and that is a super important point. A lot of people say, hey, well, this is unregulated, that's dangerous. No, it's not unregulated. It's regulated by trusty robots that are incorruptible. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we see a lot of times with our regulators, there's a lot of good people who are doing regulation, but there's also, they're subject to pressure with the big names. We see some of the biggest banks getting off the hook with a slap on the wrist, and little guys who really didn't even know that they were doing something wrong going to jail for 3 years.
True.
And that kind of corruption, that's corruption as far as I'm concerned, even if they're not taking payoff.
I can't believe we haven't used that word in this conversation yet, corruption.
Yeah. And so we know what humans are like. Every one of us is probably corruptible for some price. And so whenever you ask humans to govern what's going on, you're going to get these things. And most of the time people just say, yeah, that's just the cost of doing business with humans. Well, guess what? When you've got trusty robots that are incorruptible, it takes us to a whole new level in terms of what we can do as a human race.
Yeah, those robots don't have a dog in the hunt. They don't have anything they're looking for.
Yeah. They're not thinking and scheming. There's no way they can get any benefit. And of course, every robot has a human that owns the robot. So if that human were to go into his robot and change the software a little bit to maybe get them a little bonus or whatever doing, all the other robots would scream foul, and that robot would be kicked off the network. So nobody can do it unless you get to all the robots or more than half of them. You cannot change the software.
And just to be clear to everyone, we're not talking about artificial intelligence here. We're not talking about a sentient being running this. These are just algorithmic transactions happening in a computer space. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's so predictable that every robot always gets the same answer. That's how they can detect when there's a bad robot, right? Somebody's messed with.
Self-regulating.
So, yeah, and that's, so there's a little saying in our industry that the code is the law, okay? And so when people come along and say, I got to regulate that, we say, why? This does a better job than what you humans could do, and you've got an audit trail of everything that happened, so everything's out in the open, nothing's done in a
and there's no gray area whatsoever.
Well, there's no gray area within the code, but I guess there's a whole other category of people. I mean, we talked about a couple things. We talked about Bitshares being the base stock, if you will, and we talked about the smart coins, but there's another category of user-issued assets. That's where you can make your own coin. We talked a little bit about that.
Yes.
Well, when you make your own coin, it's not protected like the other things. It's only as good as the promise of the person who made
the value instilled in it. Is
that
correct?
If I make a coin and I'm Joe's Barbecue and Lube Shop, and I promise that I will redeem this quote for a new oil change, okay, well, it's only as good as whether I stay in business and really do honor that coin.
Well, why would you want to make a coin?
Well, a lot of times it's a good promotional type of thing. And so people do use it, sell the coin ahead of time, good for a discount. It moves your revenue into the current because you sold the discount coin like a coupon. And now when people come in and buy it, they get that discount.
Okay, so you're just creating value and assigning value and making the value tradable.
Right. And you are free to say any promise you want. But when you start making promises like, this coin is going to be stock in our company, and you're going to have a share of our profits, that strays over into all kinds of security laws.
The gray area, yes.
Yeah, and you're issuing unlicensed security if you do that. There's nothing to stop people from doing that, and that's really a blot on our industry right now. All the good that we're doing, and we have people coming along who offer a coin that says, I'm going to invent anti-gravity. Please buy my coin. And a lot of newly rich crypto millionaires who really aren't very smart at investing maybe buy that hook, line, and sinker. They buy up a bunch of those coins, and then the person takes it and runs off and lives a life and never delivers.
It does change the horizon for investing. I mean, if you can create your own investment, so to speak, but there's also some really good ones there, like Sovereign Hero, and of course Bitcoin has been one. So, so you don't have to make a coin, if that sounds...
no, there's really good use cases for it, but you know, the buyer beware, because there's a mix out there of really good stuff.
How many coins are there right now?
Oh, uncountable. I think on the Bitshares network, many hundreds.
And how many are viable in your opinion?
10%.
10%?
Yeah. A lot of them are
10 or 20 coins.
A lot of them are just for fun, and we encourage people to have fun. A high school class does a fundraiser, you know, and they make their own coin and put it out there and buy and sell it.
And they learn how to do it.
Yeah, it's good training, and people have fun, and some of them just make fun coins. I know one guy that we respect a lot made a coin called Fast Cass. His name was Cass, and his coin was good for moving to the top of his queue. He had so much business. He says, these coins here, I'll give you same-day service if you want to spend, but they're like silver bullets. So you can do lots of interesting things with it.
It kind of makes finance more creative.
Yeah.
It's a whole new area of creativity.
Yes, and I encourage that. And in fact, we talk to a lot of celebrities that want to use it as a way to interact with their fans and to reward their fans. An example of what a celebrity might do is to say, if you want to spend one of these coins, you can ask me a question and I'll actually answer it. I'll answer 10 email questions a day, and if you want to move to the top of the waiting list, spend one of my coins, and that'll guarantee to get an answer from me. Okay.
Creating a little economy of information from the celebrity.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be like, it's just going to be like a whole new creative playing field.
Yes, and we encourage people to do that, and the whole industry's like that. Constant innovation.
Kind of like the Wild West right now?
Well, there is that Wild West component because while the technology is sound, promises made using the technology are only as good as the promiser. And so when you're using the system, be aware of that. Even if I am a very big bank, and you can think of who I might be talking about, and I'm running some type of a digital silver business, and I'm telling you, yeah, this is good for 1 ounce of silver, this coin, and I'll redeem that, but in reality, I only have maybe 1% real physical silver backing what this is, and I'm just going on my big name as a bank, and you trust me, but really the fact is I haven't backed it all.
Oh, okay, that's a perfect analogy, and we can extend that out. So back to comparing Bitshares to Bitcoin. So
okay, sorry, thank you. We said Bitshares is a Model T, and if I were to compare where we are with Bitcoin's a Model T, Bitshares would be more like a starship, and that is not just a jet fighter, not just a sports car.
I love starships.
Starship.
Who doesn't?
Yes, and what I say that was we took 3 factors.
Okay.
How fast does it get something done? How much stuff can it do at the same time? And how much energy does it waste? Okay.
Ooh.
And so we already talked about Bitcoin's number, 10 minutes to do a transaction, only 7 transactions per second for the whole world to use. So we line up and we have to pay premium to use Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin wastes an incredible amount of electricity. I would say hundreds of millions of dollars worth of electricity every year to run its algorithm. And so the only place it can really be run profitably is mostly in China, where they have government subsidized coal power plants.
Wait, why does it take so much energy to run their algorithms?
Because the way it was designed initially was all the computers in the world would each run a little algorithm, and they had 10 minutes to find a secret magic number. It was like a contest or a lottery. We've got 10 minutes, whoever finds the secret number first gets a few bitcoins, and then we do another 10-minute block and so on. Well, that started an arms race. Everybody got bigger computers, and then they started making custom
Just
computers.
to get bitcoins?
Yes.
Okay.
And so a few companies went out and invented their own computer chips, supercomputers. And Bitcoin does have one of the biggest supercomputers on the planet right now.
I heard that.
And it takes a lot of power to run that. And that power typically comes from coal power plants because of the way the economics works in terms of Chinese having a little bit of a subsidized power. So people working in China can buy power cheaper, and therefore they can run more computers and get more bitcoins, that kind of thing. We came along and designed something and said, you know, that's really bad. Well, it's bad environmental policy to be burning that much power for something like this. Can't we do a better algorithm? And that's what Dan invented. And so the Bitshares system runs on the power of about 21 laptops.
Wow.
Okay, so that's all you really need.
That's incredible.
Yes, and the neat thing about that is we can put it in space, and in fact plan to do so probably within a year or two. There'll be 21 satellites running.
A fleet.
Yeah, running our little software up there in such a way that...
Our banks are turning into a fleet.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to turn it down. You'd have to, you know, launch a space shuttle and go up there and suck those satellites out of space, and that's just not very practical. So we're trying to move it as much as possible beyond the place where it can be interfered. So we can put...
For protection.
Yeah, we can put Bitshares in space. You cannot put those factories of computers and an entire coal power plant in space.
Such as Bitcoin.
That's Bitcoin, yeah.
Yeah. Any other comparisons that would be good to make between Bitshares and Bitcoin?
Well, there are lots of other things. Bitcoin, you know, addresses are real long, complicated numbers, and Bitshares is just a name. Like my account name is Stan. Everybody can see it on there, but you get it's easier.
Is it anonymous or is it?
Well, you can have anonymous names. You can create
for your account.
Well, my name's not anonymous. I'm kind of a public figure, and people watch me carefully in terms of what I do, and I leave it there for transparency. But
that's really amazing.
Yeah, but it sits there and it's highly secure. But people can watch. But there's nothing that says that I don't have another account called Gobbledygook that nobody knows that I own.
I knew that was the name of it.
Oh,
we're going to see what you're doing.
So people who want privacy can have it. I'm a big believer in privacy. People passionately saying, I don't want anybody to know my business. I don't want my competitors to know that I'm buying something from XYZ contractor, because now they'll go and maybe underbid me or something.
Exactly.
Right? So there's a lot of reasons why we need privacy, but there's also the flip side of it, that we need to build reputations. That Stan account is precious because it's got my reputation behind it. When I do business from the Stan account, I'm putting everything that I stand for on the line with that transaction for all the public to see. And we can do either. But it is a good idea to have the ability to have an account and do your know your customer, KYC, government ID, the same thing the banks make you do. You can do that and establish that account with a reputation that is tied to your real, long-term life reputation. And then you can have another account that you use when you want to do business and not have your competitors tracking you.
Beautiful. Where does Ethereum fit in with this? Is it a dinosaur like you would call, a Model T, that you call Bitcoin, or is it a newer technology?
Oh, it's much newer, much more powerful.
I know a lot of people are very excited about their investments with that, so we want to say that that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's the second largest system, and what makes it special is in our system you can put your own coin on. There you can put your own computer program on it that will do anything. And so I can make a smart contract that says that when such and such a thing happens in the stock market, and when the phase of the moon is like this, and a whole bunch of other conditions, at noon on Wednesdays, then make this payment. and you can write down whatever terms you want, put it up there. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. You just put it up there, and it'll execute that contract. So that was groundbreaking technology.
For Ethereum.
For Ethereum, yeah.
Yes.
Really good stuff. Now, comparing Ethereum to our technology line, Ethereum does about 25 transactions per second, a lot better than Bitcoin. And by the way, Bitcoin just went through an upgrade. It probably doubled to maybe 14.
Good to know.
And
fair to say.
Yeah, and in fact, one version of Bitcoin might even be approaching Ethereum speeds of 25. But that's nothing compared to the tens of thousands of transactions per second that Bitcoin and the Sovereign Hero and all the coins on our network can transact at. To compare it, Visa does maybe 4,000 transactions per second in a day. So we can handle lots of Visas on our system, but you'll never put something like that on Bitcoin or Ethereum. And so Ethereum's a good way to prototype something. And then if you want to move that smart contract to where it'll run in real time like Bitshares, there's a process to put it on the Bitshares network. It's just you got to get approval of the shareholders to put the new functionality. And that's kind of good, right? Because you could, if anybody can put anything onto the Ethereum chains, there are times to put something with bugs, and that happened recently with a particular thing where I think it was $50 million worth of Ethereum got stolen because of a bug in somebody's outside code.
Wow.
And so that damages Ethereum's reputation, even though it wasn't Ethereum's fault, right? The Ethereum code didn't break. The code someone added to it broke, and they got egg all over their face because of that. Then they had to decide, do we go in and take that money back and give it back to the rightful owners? If we do, we're interfering with those robots that are supposed to be above any human interference. And so it produced some conflicts for them. They wound up splitting over it. There's two kinds of Ethereum right now.
Oh.
One of which said, no, we will not under any circumstances fiddle with the code. And the other one says, no, we're going to right any wrongs that happen on our network. Two philosophies. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Let the market decide which is best. And both are doing quite fine right now. We are going forward now with something that will run all of those type of things, of smart contracts, and do it at full light speed. And that's what the EOS system is.
Can't wait to talk about that. But let's go back to the original thing. I think a lot of people signed on to hear this today because they, like we said earlier, they kind of feel like they missed the boat with Bitcoin. Now that it's proven itself and people made a lot of money, exponential amounts of money, we have their ears. And so someone wants to jump in now. So how would you advise someone, say I have $1,000 and I'm like, okay, I missed Bitcoin. I'm ready to jump in. What should I do? How should I do it? And can you take me through the steps? Okay,
well the first thing I'd recommend is get a time machine and go back to when Bitcoin was worth $4.
And totally.
Yeah, and buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin.
And go to Apple stock too, as where else do we want to go?
While you're back here, you might as well buy a few good
way.
things, right?
Yeah.
But since we don't have a time machine, the only thing we can do is do our homework and look at what looks like it might do what Bitcoin did now. And there's hundreds of good coins to choose from. And this is where you kind of have to do your homework. You need to understand what is the quality of the technology, what's the quality of the team that's doing the building, what's its competition. You got to do your homework. And what kind of a marketing campaign does it have? What kind of connections does it have in the industry?
Kind of like buying a stock, you have to do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I haven't done my homework on all my competitors' coins. So when someone asks me that question, I can't give financial advice and say, this is, these are the ones to buy. I can merely tell you the case for Bitshares and why I think it is super well positioned to do what Bitcoin and Ethereum has already done and go up by a factor of 1,000.
I love that. Did everybody hear that? To go up by a factor of 1,000. So that's our potential here. I'm going to invest. Tell me how I do it.
Okay. Well, there are literally scores of different ways to do it, and I can't cover them all here.
The easiest way.
The easiest way I would recommend, and we're trying to make it easy. We have a new website. It's just going online today.
Today, announcing a new website today.
Yes. And that is billionherocampaign.com. billionherocampaign.com. And that site exists to take Bitshares and the Hero mainstream. It's a place to train and teach people. We're trying to set it up in nice, easy baby steps, kind of make a game out of it. What's the game? Well, we're giving away $1 billion. to 12 good causes, and it's up to the human race to decide what those 12 causes are.
Wow.
Anybody can propose a cause. So there's a reason to come there now, so you can find your cause, and if there's not a cause that you like, you can put your own cause up there to help, people in a particular region of the world. We don't even tell people what qualifies as a good cause. Maybe a good cause for some people is to do a mission to Mars. So whatever it is, the top 12 will get prizes. The first place, $300 million, and the 12th place, $10 million.
Wow.
So we've got all types of organizations planning to compete, and the way you compete is you get your members to come to our website, learn how to use the system. We'll even give you free play money that you can, without taking any risk yourself, you can play with, and whatever you score gives you that many votes on which of those prizes go where. So your celebrity or your leader of the cause can tell you to go there, sign up, and vote for that cause. And so people can play, no purchase necessary. And while they're at it, they're learning how to use the system so that if
they're learning how to use it. And so it's like choosing a humanitarian project.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's like 12 buckets of humanitarian projects. You choose one or invent one.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the way you would advise me to invest first, to do that?
If you're just a beginner and you're not real sure, and you just want to dip your toe in it, that's a very good way to do it.
What about just going to Bitshares and getting a wallet and doing that way?
Yes, there's a number of exchanges out there. OpenLedger.info is sort of our flagship. It's built on top of the Bitshares network, but it provides a way you can wire dollars or euros or whatever to them, and then use that to buy Bitshares in quantity, and you can look at it on the market and decide what price you want to pay.
Okay, what is it at today? What is the price of?
The price is, last time I looked, around 15 cents. It's been hovering in the 13 to 17 cents.
Okay, so historical record here, we're at 15 cents, and you can buy Bitshares today.
Right, and just to compare that, in March, we were down at 1/3 of a cent. So it's already
gone up a lot.
Quite a lot.
And you do this through bitshares.com. That's how you would establish
Well, yeah, if you go to, it's bitshares.org.
Bitshares.org.
Okay, and when you go there, you can download a little app, which is what we call a wallet. Mm-hmm. And that app is where you keep your password, and you can type in your password, and it opens up the wallet and gives you access to the ability to send and receive money.
It's your bank account.
Yeah, if you used online checking,
yes,
where you go in there and you type in where you want to send a check and how much you want to spend, it works pretty much like that. And so that would be something that everybody would have to have in order to hold these things and manipulate them. And then you can go, another company is Poloniex, but there are a lot of them in China. Some very simple ones, blocktrades.us is one of my favorites because it's so simple. I go in and I tell it what kind of coin I want to spend and what kind of coin I want to buy. So I could select, I'm going to spend Bitcoin and I'm going to buy BitShares, type in the number of Bitcoins I want to spend, and it'll send the right number of BitShares to my account, and I'm off and running. So a lot of different ways to do it, and if you want to get really serious, if you're a big institutional investor, we can point you to some people who do private large volume buy and sell.
How would they contact you for that?
Well, I guess my email is stan@cryptonomics.com, and if they want to contact me there and so on, I can refer them to people who can help them do bulk buys.
So if you're at home playing with this, get on there, look around. It's not that hard, but then you're on your way.
Yeah, I should say this is a great place to insert this point.
Yes.
With freedom comes responsibility. Okay, when I'm dealing with a bank, and that bank can screw me over all sorts of ways, but if I make a mistake, they can fix it. Okay, so if I'm over on the new digital currency system, nobody can screw with my money, but nobody can fix it either. So
good point.
You need to make sure that you back up your wallet and that you keep track of your password. And there's some other things we'll teach people how to do to make that even more secure. But when you're moving into this domain, you're saying, I don't want someone else to be able to fix it, because if they can fix it, they can also steal it, right?
True.
And so people will sort themselves out into yeah, I'm responsibility. I'm a grown up. I can take care of that. Or other people say, I'm not sure I want to take that chance. I'll risk the bank ripping me off because the chances that I'll screw up are bigger. Okay.
And that's an option.
And we are working to help that group of people have their freedom too by making things easier.
I love it.
But right now, where we are in the development cycle, it's more leaning towards you make sure you back up your own password, because if you haven't got that written on 3 slips of paper in 3 different buildings, so if the first 2 buildings burn down, you still have your password.
I printed mine out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Print out several copies.
Yeah, I need to hide it around the house.
Yep. In different houses, because your house could burn down. But think
yeah,
like that.
You got to, or just memorize it.
Yeah.
I want to pause right here and tell everyone watching that this is a production of the Conscious Media Festival. And it's a festival that happens in March. Every year we'll have our 2nd annual festival. The week before South by Southwest. Stan, Dylan Howard, and others from this new technology will be there to answer questions. We may even have our own coin, but we want to encourage you to come and meet them at this whole new high vibe meeting space known as the Conscious Media Festival. It's for all the people who create content, who spread the news about all of these new systems that are upgrading our world in every area, from the media to financial to health, etc. So we look forward to having you as a keynote there.
We're looking forward to it.
And I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to meet you and learn more about it. So we appreciate so much. And the last thing we did not cover was where this is going from here. How is Bitshares going to evolve? And that by the time March rolls around, it may be evolved to that. So that is what I've been told is infinite scalability.
Yes. Bitshares, that's another difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. They don't scale.
Oh.
They're up against...
They have a maximum.
Yeah, 25 transactions per second right now. Now, will they fiddle around with it and eventually make improvements? Yes, but it's like operating on a running piece of machinery. It's hard to make that big a change once it's up there and people are using it. So they're kind of boxed in with their technology and can only incrementally grow. Bitshares is designed to scale, and with EOS scale indefinitely. So we can handle all the world's transactions. So where could this go? Picture a network in space that no one can touch, with unlimited bandwidth and Wi-Fi connectivity to the whole planet, so that somebody with a cell phone in Africa has got just as much of a chance to participate in the world's economy as somebody on Wall Street.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's leveling the playing field.
Yes.
To the 1 millionth power.
Creating, our slogan is honest money and a level playing field.
I love it.
And so our vision is to put all that out there, and then what we have is 0 economic friction. The middleman taking some of our prosperity out and restricting and throttling our interactions.
That's a whole new world.
Yeah, you get that out of the way, and superconductivity in terms of what can happen. And that means better economic growth, more opportunity for everybody on the planet, because we can all
a huge ripple effect from that benevolent force right there.
Yeah. A good example of it, look at the parts of the world that became prosperous first. They were at the crossroads of the trade routes, right? Yes. We're taking that crossroads to every little hamlet, every little city, every little town, every remote location on Earth is now at the crossroads. Because
lighting up.
Yeah. And so now we've made a new type of world where we all can talk to each other and interact.
A new grid.
Yeah, it's a new grid. And this is as big as the internet was. If you missed the internet growth over 20 years to what it is today, well, this is the way people will interact economically in the future. The banks will still have a role, but I want to move the banks out from the center, where everybody has to go through them, to the periphery, where we can all interact, and if we need a banking service, we can go out to the edge and say, bank, this is something I need from you. But if I don't need it from you, I want to do straight transactions with my peers. That's the big revolution that we want to bring about.
Yes, the internet of value.
Yes. That's
as you have said.
Yeah.
So, Stan, thank you and your team for being the wizards we need to figure this out and to have the patience to teach all of us. We look forward to growing with you and having more transactions with you and just growing side by side as we all evolve into this new earth. So thank you for being here. It was such a pleasure. And thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. This has been a great conversation.